paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses to see why these guys give them all the tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
What about people who paid their loans, though, struggle to pay their loans, and now others don't have to?
You don't have an interest or a bias in which way this trial comes out?
I don't know. I'm a photographer, photojournalist. That's what I do. I take photos.
Did you go and give an interview to a gossip site that is biased against the district attorney?
I don't know what his site represents.
So you actually went to the media, or someone who claims to be media, to talk about this meeting with the prosecutors?
First of all, he came to me. I didn't go to him. Let's make that clear.
About leaving a better planet for our kids. How about leaving better kids for our planet? Entire generation offended at everything, getting mad that a human thinks all lives matter. We don't need black or white or left or right. What we need is common sense. We need balance. We're all in the same boat. Why are you trying to make holes? If they sink, we sink. This is madness. I'm offended that you're offended by me taking offense. You can't build a wall. Why does your house have a fence? I believe in two genders. I'm not mad at the rest. I'm just confused when a dude has a beard and some breasts.
In 1968, archaeologists uncovered an amazing Bible archaeology find. They found a 5th century Byzantine church in Capernaum. But what makes this find so special is not the church, but what is beneath the church. And this will blow your mind. Byzantine architects built churches over places where activities of Jesus were remembered to have taken place. And under this church, they found a square room dated to the 1st century. Graffiti in 5 languages as well as crosses were written on the walls. And most scholars agree that this find is the house of Peter the Apostle. Archaeology continues to back up the Bible.
If we have male and female, which one's good and which one's bad? But this type of thinking infects everything in the Western world today, like our politics. Well, if this side is right, that side must be wrong, sort of thing. Everything is brought into this polarized dichotomy. But the original understanding was much different. If we study classical teachings like in Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about, the path of development is not to one extreme or another. It's the middle way. It's that central path, holding a balance between two different extremes. And so the same thing is true on the tree of life. We have a middle path, just like the Tibetans talk about, and then things can go off balance to one extreme or another. Do you want to be too hot or too cold? You don't want either, you want to be in the middle. But this applies to everything within spiritual development.
So I'm all about supporting the militia and the protection of private property, but I'm also supporting a peaceful protest, but that's not what we have, But that being said, what was that?
You carrying?
Do I carry? No. Just holy armor, my friend. That's all I got. I don't know if he's on my side, but if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And if he wants me to do his work, I'm doing his work. So. Well, you guys are a little late. Shit started popping off Tuesday night.
Yep.
So.
You're gonna fall.
Yeah, and don't poke the bear. Try to be respectful.
Yeah.
Don't get attention unless you have to, because you don't know who you say the wrong thing to, and then all of a sudden they pull over, and then 4 more cars pull over, and then you have a confrontation you didn't need to have. And your whole goal here is to keep the peace, not make problems. I'm just telling you from experience.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the $2 million the damage that happened.
Is that your lot?
Oh, the owner of the place, the one who's got us out here.
Okay, is he paying you guys to be out here? Or
No.
You just asked?
No.
You asked him?
We got a group coming up behind us.
We have right across from the church a Masonic temple. Masonic Temple Church.
You know what an eater robot is? An eater robot is a robot that runs on biological material.
No, don't make that.
That means they've already made it. It's a robot that's powered by biological material. So I'm just saying worst case scenario.
Okay.
This is a robot that eats bodies on a battlefield to stay alive, and that's how it powers.
Hear this. You are not alone. This is the resistance. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
Welcome to another edition of the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris. We're here live with Don Vi Jr., co-host of the broadcast. And boy, we have a great show for you lined up today. We have Nate DeBruin. Nathan DeBruin will be joining us. He was a witness in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, if you remember, and we'll dive into it when he joins us at the bottom of this first hour. It was where Thomas Binger was trying to get him to change his story, and he had to hire a lawyer. And I met Nathan not too long ago. We went and grabbed lunch, and we talked about some things and what he's doing. And we're going to talk about that. He's in, all of us have experienced success in a different way after covering that event, and all of us have, also seen some new challenges in our life, especially the way people are judgmental and what they want to think and say about you and what you do. And so we're going to dive into that. And we should note that today is the day that Kyle Rittenhouse opened up and shot 3 protesters or rioters, whatever you want to call them, at the Kenosha unrest. And what you're seeing in the background is video of me actually covering the car lot and interviewing and running into Kyle Rittenhouse. That was one of the first videos that went viral. And it was also how they were able to identify what Kyle's name was through this video. And there was somebody else that also interviewed him. And what you're going to see over there in the distance, if you are watching the video, is Kyle Rittenhouse and Ryan Balch and the people on top of the roof. This is a lot of the video that they actually used in the trial. And that's when they had to call me on the witness stand while I was in the trial watching it. They're like, well, we can't have audio because he is narrating. We can't have narrating, but he is available for subpoena. And I looked around me and I'm like, are they going to subpoena me in the middle of the courtroom? And somebody caught video of that and made a meme, and it went quite quite viral. It was kind of crazy. And, I think it had viral on TikTok and on Facebook and everywhere else. And everyone was making memes, and somebody made a meme, and I can't remember what it was. I had one meme made out of me. Everyone had a gazillion, like the meme game was on fire, and Kristan T. Harris only got one meme, and it was something like protest referee or something like that, because I was there trying to de-escalate things between the Black Lives Matter crowd and these armed citizens, amongst other things, because they identify them as counter protesters. In reality, they just didn't want them to burn down their businesses or burn down businesses in real time. There's Kyle Rittenhouse, as you can see. If you want to hear the audio, it's available on the Rundown Live. But what we see here is people on the roof. There's about a dozen armed citizens at this car source lot 2. And it's kind of where we get into things today. It's kind of an interesting day for me, because I'm thinking back that 2 years ago today, I wrote an article about armed citizens at Kenosha unrest, preventing a gas station from getting burnt down, where you described yesterday, Don, like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people marched against up to the courthouse down from Milwaukee. And then once they got dispersed, they wreaked havoc a lot, throughout the city, burning down millions and millions, $2 million worth of damage at least in vehicles and other equipment and buildings, and churches burnt down. And CJ Halliburton, who's actually been visiting and staying with me on and off for the last couple of months, he's supposed to be joining us too, but maybe tomorrow he'll join us. But he prevented a church from getting burnt down, and you can see drones in the air. People said, "Oh, there were no drones." I recorded drones. There's that camera right there. One thing I was always curious about: why didn't they ever use Car Source Lot 2 camera footage unless they were like, "Oh, well, the cameras weren't working that day," because that's what I would do if I owned a business. But yeah, it is weird because I stumbled upon this video. I didn't think that I knew I was already viral from 2 days ago, but the censorship started to ramp up after they started to dig into who I was and that I wasn't a leftist and I wasn't really a conservative. They didn't know what to do with me, Don. And, like we learned about the tree of life today in the TV sucks narrative, when you look at the Metatron's cube and the flower of life, and they have the right path and the left path, and they're both extremes, the truth is somewhere in the center. And we've always said everything's far right or far left, but we are far center, and we're here to bring you information and data on many of the things that are happening in the world today. But this was a very pivotal point in my life. I had no idea that after being laid off, I would catch this video footage. And unlike a lot of other people that may have made a lot of money off of footage that was seen millions of times, I did not. There's people out there that made good money covering this. People donated covering this. But when you are in the center and the right is like, well, he's not ultra conservative and he's not an ultra leftist, you don't have like the backing that a lot of people have. Because if you go one way, like we've seen some of the bigger talk radio show hosts lean conservative, all of a sudden they blow up. Or if they lean ultra left, they got all these Antifa and BLM donations coming in because they support the cause. We just keep it real, and that's controversial.
Yeah, integrity does not pay the bills. And, if that's the price that you have to pay, then I'm happy to pay it. I'm sure you are as well, because as far as I'm concerned, integrity and, just having respect for yourself as a human being and honor is more important than anything else. So, if having integrity, if the price for that is not blowing up and going viral, I'm totally okay with it, because at least I can sleep at night, unlike some of the other people who sold out. So...
Right. And that's kind of where it's at. And so when I was out there, I identified as a libertarian because essentially that's what I am. But even that umbrella has like a gazillion different beliefs that allows for all beliefs. And a lot of people don't know what that means. And it basically means you can do whatever the hell you want. Just don't violate my individual liberties. Don't tell me what to do. I'll honor my contracts, and I won't infringe on your liberties or freedoms either. So that means if you want to be a communist in your yard, or you have all the flags and you want to, have little meetings and stuff like that, I don't care. And if I want to have libertarian meetings and blast my music and not mow my lawn, I can do that too. And it shouldn't matter. It's not your property. But now we have like homeowners associations that go after you if you don't mow your lawn and things like that, like people trying to tell you what to do with your property. And so essentially what we saw here in Kenosha was that locals saw that a gas station that's where I was just at, a gas station, or I'm at in this video, was protected the night before. And at one point throughout the night, as law enforcement started pushing citizens down the road here towards 60th Street in Kenosha, I knew that there is a potential for some kind of violence to occur, because they kept pushing them towards the armed citizens and back, and towards the armed citizens and back. And something that is still an unsolved mystery. Like, we want to talk about things around Kenosha a little bit this morning. Something that is unsolved is that there were reports, and Ryan Balch told me, and I have it on video, at the protest, that law enforcement officer essentially pulled over and told them that they are going to send them down their way so they can deal with them. By them, the protesters. What does it mean by that they can deal with them? Like what kind of like seeds? Like, if you're planting in the garden of people's minds and you say, oh, we're going to push, a female officer got out of a car and said, hey, we're sending them down your way so that you guys can deal with them. If that is true, what does that mean?
Right. I mean, it's more so, it just seems like, the police passing the buck off, not wanting, because I think like there's there's a mixture of things going on in that situation because one, I think the police in a way are somewhat standoffish to do anything due to the fact that the whole thing, the whole reason this is happening is because of police brutality, because of
Jacob Blake.
because of Jacob Blake. So in one instance, they're treading very lightly. In the other instance, it's also the authoritarian mindset of let's pass it off on somebody else so we don't have to deal with the blowback should something pop off. And yet, in order to declare unlawful assembly and, all the other, provocative actions that we've seen them take in the past, say in Charlottesville or in Ferguson and Baltimore and so many of these other places, push the situation to where it's combustible and then they can sweep in and declare unlawful assembly. So I think it's a multitude of things playing off each other at the same time. But one thing that I find really interesting is that essentially we're the only show that's actually talked about it. And of course we covered it at the Free Thought Project. But pretty much, whether it's conservative or liberal, no one really discusses the fact that I think it was you that caught it on video. A lot of the militia and even some of the BLM folks came together to talk about how to de-escalate the situation. We covered that on the Free Thought Project, and other than Rundown Live and Free Thought Project, I don't think anyone else did.
Well, that was this video, and at some point there's going to be about 200 or 300 protesters or rioters on Tuesday night, August 25th is when this video was taken, and law enforcement, what they were doing was yo-yoing the protesters down the road because unlike BLM unlike the January 6th protesters who seemed kind of new to protesting, like once law enforcement dispersed them, they didn't get back together and push back forward or push back at law enforcement. They kind of just kept pushing back because they didn't know how to act or how to protest. And they literally, it's an experience. So BLM, they understand that after they get pushed back and law enforcement starts pulling back, they just keep going. They're persistent and they go all night. And they're and the groups don't leave. Well, what happened in January 6th, people started leaving as soon as the law enforcement got involved and started, it's just a whole different mentality. So what was happening is law enforcement from the courthouse was pushing BLM and, protesters that flew in from all over the United States, Antifa, you name it, people with, industrial grade fireworks, cherry bombs, throwing them at cops, slingshots like we saw in yesterday's video. This guy in the video ended up talking about, like, he was very, like, I would say anti-LGBTQ and some of the things that he said that he has actually reached out to me, asked me to delete the video because it's going to prevent him from getting jobs. I'm like, it's the internet, bro. Even if I deleted it, it's like on 1,000 other websites, it is the internet lives on. So be careful what you say around the camera. And that's just the truth. And, Donald Trump learned that when he was grabbing that, he was grabbing those kitty cats there. Yeah. And so what we're seeing is that at one point people started having violent conversations. By that, I mean, they were yelling at each other. And then I would interject and try to de-escalate things. I'd like, listen, they're not here for you. They're not counter protesters, even though I think that a lot of the people there, they just wanted to keep the property safe, but there were people that wanted to engage them. And that's what they were trying to do. They were fishing a lot of these armed citizens and vice versa. They were fishing back at the protesters, trying to gather some kind of reaction and trigger them, as where people were actually having civil conversations about it and they were hugging it out. In fact, my video here that you are watching right now on the screen, we're live on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com/The Rundown Live, YouTube, The Rundown Live Strike Zone, and Rumble. And you can find us on the rundownlive.com. If you need an audio feed, KGRADB.com. They stream us live on digital broadcasting, the world's largest paranormal radio program in the evening. So make sure you're checking weekdays. We're there 5 days a week. But I just want people to know where they can find this stuff. The videos really help document. I think this was the first protest and that was really documented from beginning to end. And I had the most conclusive evidence of the whole armed citizens. And so that's why I believe that Thomas Binger called on me as a witness. Now, again, I was interviewed originally by Kyle Rittenhouse's attorneys on, within a couple months after the incident. And they said, prepare for us to call on you. But for some reason, they chose not to. And I'm guessing it's because I was already in Thomas Binger's catalog of people that he could call on. And obviously you can't be on both teams, right? We just talked about that. You're either left or right, or your prosecution or defense. And then the prosecution can't call defense witnesses and vice versa. They got to call first, but then once they call on you, they can, ask you questions, cross-examination. Yeah. So anyways, long story short, we still don't know what happened there. And like you mentioned, there were a lot of conscious conversations coming along. There was one point at the Kyle Rittenhouse, what was it? There was probably the day of the announcement of Kyle Rittenhouse's innocence at the courthouse. There were conscious conversations going on that day too, where these three Caucasian dudes with like basically the loudest speaker they could get was calling BLM a terrorist organization. And so some of these African-American de-escalation groups came by and started debating them. They said, well, is the BLM any different than the KKK? Because they kind of have similar beliefs. They're very similar. And if you're wearing a BLM shirt, it's no different than me wearing a KKK shirt. I'm not saying that. This is the conversation that was going on. And so people out there had problems with this and dealing with the cognitive dissonance because the mainstream media basically promotes the BLM movement, allows them to get away with a lot of the horrible things. And I'm sure a lot of the individuals were held accountable. I know in Minneapolis, when I covered the burning down of the 3rd precinct, I had like 20,000 viewers watching our live stream. The person that was there that, stole gear from the law enforcement, police station, he was nailed. Some of the people are nailed. And just like they're going after people from Kenosha after the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, it's interesting to see how a lot of these BLM protesters got away scot-free, and they had inside knowledge, or not knowledge, inside ability and phone numbers for attorneys that were Soros funded, ready to help them and set there, ready to get them out of jail for free. And this night was just wild because this is like straight out Arkham Asylum too, right, Don?
Yeah.
Because Rosenbaum was left out of the psych ward. He was let out of the psych ward. He checked himself out. He wanted to go, and his girlfriend allegedly said, "Don't go by the protest. It's wild down there." What do you think of somebody that's chaotic evil is going to do? He's going to head straight on down to the protest.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking about earlier when you had mentioned, like on the militia side, there were some people fishing for confrontation, and we saw the same thing with Joseph Rosenbaum, and we saw what he got because of it. But that's really, in my mind at least, going back to what I mentioned yesterday, one of the big problems with the groupthink, sort of the mass formation psychosis, the mob mentality, whatever you want to classify it as. That with big situations like this where emotions are so heightened and like it's really like a powder keg, like the smallest thing can kick off something big, as it did, as we are all aware by now, led to the whole Kyle Rittenhouse situation in the first place, the whole reason we're talking about this 2 years later. But that's something that people always have to be very conscious of when it comes to these, big events and protests and whatnot, is, be very, very aware of the groupthink mentality and just how fragile it can make a situation become. You're muted for some reason. I'm not sure. Let me,
No, I got it. Like people get upset with me for saying some of the things I say. And one of them is that I warned Kyle Rittenhouse multiple times to try to stay away from, protesters, kind of stick to your zone. And like, he doesn't have to listen to me because he's an adult, or he wasn't at the time. I guess I thought he was an adult, but like he went on and he did his own thing, and it, there was repercussions for that. And he was very dishonest. He wasn't a medic. Like he told me flat out he was a medic. That's dishonest. And basically, I got out of it is that I was a kid that played Call of Duty, that liked cops, that glorified the law enforcement lifestyle, and then was put in a predicament where he felt he had to defend his life, and the court says that was just. Now, I just hope that Kyle Rittenhouse is making the most of this opportunity with all his money that he's going to be getting allegedly, and he's buying himself these F-150 $80,000 trucks and stuff like that, I'm hearing. So Kyle Rittenhouse isn't doing bad. He's in Texas taking selfies with cops and doing what Kyle Rittenhouse does. But I wouldn't be surprised. We talked about this, that like in like 4 or 5 years, we'll see Kyle Rittenhouse on one of those shows where he had a lot of money and then all of a sudden he's broke. He's sitting out there. He's like, I had an M150. I had to sell it, or he's going to invest in things like media that's genuine, because that's one thing that obviously he's going after. Maybe invest in the Rundown Live. I don't know. I tried my best just to prevent people from killing each other. And like you mentioned, there was firecrackers, black cats going off, every, few minutes. There's cherry bombs going off. There's smoke bombs. There was all tear gas. There's rubber bullets. There's pepper balls. There's MRAPs. And it was wild. And we're going to dive into that and a whole bunch more with our guest, Nate DeBruin, who will be joining us when we come back from this commercial break. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris. You're listening to The Rundown Live on KGRADB.com, band.video. Don't go anywhere. Check us out on Rockfin, Rumble, anywhere where podcasts are found. You'll be able to find this episode catalog. Share the live feed. Drop some comments in the chat. Send us some thumbs up and punch that button. We'll see you guys in a minute.
Looks innocent enough, doesn't it? Lots of young people play cornhole in the park. Seems like a good place to toss a bag around. But sometimes there are dangers involved that never meet the eye. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly. One never knows when the conspiracy theorist is about. Let's take the case of Ronald Farber. Ronald played cornhole all afternoon, and he didn't feel like throwing bags alone, so he decided to ask another boy. He'd done it 100 times before. He didn't think anything was unusual when the boy struck up a friendly conversation. In fact, he seemed like a real nice guy. What Ronald didn't know was that Ralph was sick. A sickness that was not visible like swine flu, but no less dangerous and contagious. A sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a conspiracy theorist, a paranoid person with a desperate need to feel they have a special knowledge that somehow sets them apart from the masses. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful. If they are too open-minded, if they question the official versions of the facts, and if they don't trust the United States government. One never knows when the conspiracy theorist is about. He may appear normal.
It's no secret that the independent media is held to a much higher standard than the lamestream media. When's the last time that you've seen the New York Times get a 30-day ban for lying about weapons of mass destruction? Or how about the Independent getting a 7-day suspension on YouTube for claiming that everyone that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was African American? The truth is you don't, because they get away with it. We don't. We're independents. And what separates us from the lamestream media is that we are 100% funded by you. That's right. We're your radio program. We're your station, and we're open to everyone. We're interested in hearing all the topics, all the sides, because that's kind of like how science works, right? You take in all the data, you decide what is correct and what is not, but it doesn't censor information, because then you can't make great decisions to feed your brain. We need your help here on therundownlive.com. Support us by heading over to our website and checking out our brand new swag. We have hot and sexy, all-seeing eye UFO pyramid boombox t-shirts. That's right, check them out. They're great, and there's no better way to support us than picking up some swag to spread the word about liberty and freedom and the ability to choose what is real and what is not for yourself, not some ministry of truth. Check us out, therundownlive.com. Pick up a t-shirt today. Again, that's therundownlive.com. Hit our store link and go shop, pick something up, support us.
Oil and slave labor. These two wonderful industries make modern life a breeze. And what this fine little filly doesn't realize is that her chic accessories and stunning appearance come from oil and slave labor.
Huh?
That's right, classy lassie. Everything from your thong to your nail polish, your smartphone to your eyelashes come from oil and slave labor. Your top from Uzbekistan. Shorts from China. Jewelry from Indonesia. And your iPhone from Taiwan.
Oh no, not my iPhone!
Steve Jobs may have been a genius, but he couldn't work like a 5-year-old Asian boy can. Even your bra and panties from Bangladesh. Whoa there! Looks like science can go no further. Except for these silicone beauties from DuPont.
Hey.
Oil and slave labor, making the Western world beautiful.
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. We are back from commercial break, and I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris and Don Vi Jr. We're here today. We have a special guest that will be joining us, but before we do, punch that like button, share the comments, drop comments in the chat. Casey says in the chat, the trial's how I discovered you. Love your content. Thank you, Casey. We got Andy Morrow in the chat saying, hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? What's going on, Andy? If you're in the chat and you're watching, share the live link, tag your friends, get them in today's episode, as it is 2-year anniversary since Kyle Rittenhouse, acted in self-defense and shot 3 protesters, and we were all in different areas. So it was interesting when we start talking to some of the individuals that were there, because I was in one spot, CJ Halliburton was another one, Corey Washington was in another location. We have Nate DeBruin who will be joining us. He was in a location. Elijah Schaefer, Richie McGinnis, all these individuals that were out there, Drew Hernandez, they were all, in different areas at different times, and we all got different angles. And together, it's weird because it's like you can almost put together a movie that's real time that records the whole event. In fact, that's what Matt Orfalia is actually doing. He's a former video content creator for MTV Independent, but joining us today is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the photographer who I believe has now made a career out of his passion, hopefully soon. Nathan DeBruin is here with us, and welcome to the show, Nate. Glad to have you on the program today. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I have COVID at the moment, but I've been better. But I'm doing pretty good otherwise.
Yeah, you got COVID and you're still doing the interview, man. That's how bad
Yes.
COVID is, bro. You're making it. And we got some video playing in the background here of this is you being subpoenaed and in the courtroom, and we're gonna dive into that in just a minute here. But for our listeners up there that don't know who Nathan DeBruin is, first of all, let's start out with what is it that you do prior to Kenosha? What was it that you were doing with your life?
I was actually a manager in the grocery industry for many years prior to the whole events that happened in 2020.
Yeah, okay, so that's wild to me, because I was working for Samsung, right? All of a sudden, account manager, I got out of talk radio. It just wasn't lucrative. Censorship was going. And whenever I would be doing work, people would come up to me and they would say, Kriston Harris, as in the Rundown Live. And I'm like, I didn't know people even listen to me. And then people are ask me, why is it that you're not doing that anymore? And I'm like, well, we're 100% listener funded. We have these big conglomerates. We do it because we're passionate and we love what we do. Passion often doesn't pay. It doesn't pay. And so we got to get other jobs. Even now I work a little side gig on the side that allows me to do what I'm doing, right?
Absolutely, and I still do hold a full-time job, but I do travel on all my days off, and my job is pretty flexible.
And what you're doing now is you're taking photographs. So all of a sudden, things break out in Kenosha, right? I was there the first day. I caught a law enforcement officer getting knocked out by a brick, and I was like, boy, that could have been anybody. What happens if they missed the law enforcement? That person must have been they had significantly good aim, or they really, I don't know what happened. But that moment inspired a lot of people, protesters, journalists, come on out, reporters come out to Kenosha and start filming. And what I noticed as the turning point was the Monday night, the 24th, when thousands upon thousands of protesters were unleashed upon Kenosha, and they literally burnt the city down. So let's talk about when you decided, what day was it that you decided that, I'm going to step out my front door and I'm going to do what I can and what I know how to do, and that's to be a photojournalist.
That was actually the night of the Jacob Lake shooting. I stepped out that very first night, and I continued throughout that entire week.
Wow. And so what was the temperament at throughout Kenosha that day? Like, did you feel endangered? Was it wild? Or were you just kind of on the outskirts, just taking photographs and video?
The night of the Jacob Lake shooting, I was pretty much on the outskirts of everything. I didn't really feel much at danger. Even going into this second day, during the day, I didn't feel I was in any danger, but the whole temperature changed at night.
And yesterday,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. Yesterday we showed the video of like 6,000 or 7,000 people marching upon Kenosha, light poles being torn down, and actually knocking out and injuring a person who went into shock. And we played that video yesterday on the Rundown Live, Nathan. And yeah, man, things got wild. Like I looked at that and I was like, I think it's time to go home. Like what am I doing here? Like, do I love my mom? Do I love my family? Do I because they got to be worried about me at this point.
Yes, I mean it was chaotic at night. It was literally everywhere you look, something was on fire.
Yeah, and it wasn't like people were bringing marshmallows and s'mores either. They were consistently lighting things on fire. Churches burnt down. Literally, a church burnt down in Kenosha. Other businesses were chaotically burnt down. They claimed that millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in damages. I don't know what the final total was for the city of Kenosha, but I do know that throughout that whole time, the law enforcement, they weren't too active in protecting the local community. They were really kind of centered around, the federal buildings.
Correct. And I would agree with that. And I think that's why it got so bad, because everyone was able to do whatever they wanted to do. There was no control.
Yeah, there was no control at all. And it's crazy to think about, Nate, that you decided to step out your house and start filming. And on that second night, something interesting happened in front of the gas station on 60th Street there. There were armed citizens preventing it from being burnt down. Everything was getting boarded up throughout Kenosha on the whole strip there. And, people saw that gas station didn't get burnt down because people with guns decided to protect that business. What did you see? What are some of the experiences you had from that night?
That night definitely was an uptick in civilians carrying firearms. Visibly, you could see people carrying them connected to their backpacks or tucked in their waistbands. There was also a lot of armed citizens protecting businesses throughout that Sheridan Road area. And even what doesn't get focused on, even going into town, there was people that were still protecting their businesses armed. But what I noticed is when the protesters got pushed out of Civic Park area, that's when things really took a turn. And
right.
The protesters just started to get angry because they got pushed. They felt like they got pushed out of the park, and it was their right to be there. And
that was
things like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was always one of my biggest questions is when it comes to that night, because I watched all of Kristan's footage that night. This is before I was co-hosting the Rundown Live, but we had a former colleague of ours, a mutual connect, is actually how he and I met. And so I was watching Kristan, I was watching Unicorn Riot, I was watching a whole bunch of these other guys covering it because I was just trying to stay up with what was happening. And one of my biggest questions is if they never got pushed out of the park, would things have kicked off the way it did? Because that's seemed to be the catalyst for the whole thing. Is that's what initially pissed them off. And once you have a whole crowd pissed off, like we talked about this whole mob mentality, then it just it snowballs, domino effect.
Correct. And this is only my opinion, but my opinion, it wouldn't have escalated the way it escalated if the police didn't push the protesters out the way they did.
So I'm going to put a different spin on this. Like, I wonder if the protesters were hoping to burn down the courthouse, because what we saw in Minneapolis with George Floyd is law enforcement allowed them to burn down the precinct. And in Minneapolis, I'm not going to say it ended everything, but the violence stopped the next day, at least for a week or two. The burnings and a lot of the major pillaging and people getting shot in Minneapolis stopped because people felt like there was some kind of, like, maybe now the government will listen to us. Maybe now it's people like, because there is somewhat of an issue with police accountability, because they, badges don't grant extra rights. At the same time, we need law enforcement. Like, it would be chaotic without law enforcement. And there's people out there like,
yeah, absolutely.
anarchy, anarchy is the way, and everyone self-police themselves, and that works in your own home. But like, once you start talking about interjecting your beliefs on other people, that's when we start having an issue. In law enforcement, let's be honest, federalization of police is a big threat, amongst other things. And there are things that are questionable. Stingray, we found out that they had a giant dragnet and they had everyone's cell phone data of where they were at what time, versus 20 years ago when we had a Fourth Amendment right. So like, I want to cheer and say, yeah, they were able to go after a lot of these people based on this dragnet, but at the same time, the way that they accrued the data is frightening and scary at the same time. So maybe these protesters, they were probably aiming to burn down the courthouse. That would be my guess. And I know that even the Dinosaur Museum, which is, I guess, a big thing in Kenosha, they have a museum there and kids love to go there. And thanks to a colleague who's been on the show for over the last 10 years on and off, Corey Elijah, he prevented them from burning it down. They were mad at him for like, what did the dinosaurs do? What did they do? I just didn't want them to burn down the museum. People love this place. They bring their kids. Why are you going to destroy it? Like, they had nothing to do with Jacob Blake. The law enforcement does. And the city of Kenosha had nothing to do with Jacob Blake. But what we saw is people fly in large part because of videos that have gone viral, including, the law enforcement getting knocked out by a brick and other people saying they're coming to Kenosha. We saw thousands of people fly in to Milwaukee and from all over the state collaborate and march to the city and cause this damage. And I think that if they didn't push them down, if they didn't do that, they would have destroyed the courthouse. And I'm not saying that that's a better or worse thing. I'm just saying the courthouse probably cost umpteen $1 million to build, because it's all marble and granite inside there. It's got like very sonic pillars, and it's like any other really like Greek architecture type courthouse. And I think they were just trying to limit the damage, because that would have cost a lot more. And the historical significance of that building. But as we can see, they got pushed away, and then they started burning everything down. And that leads us to the end of that night. The end of that night, I mean, it just went on and on till like 1 or 2 in the morning. People were still burning things down. People were hearing gunfires. There was people driving around making crazy accusations. I know that my former co-host, the girl that he was dating at the time, had people screaming racial slurs at her, and she was Caucasian, and they were driving around threatening to beat up people. There was just a whole bunch of complete chaos that was not recorded, that people didn't see entirely of what happened that night. But the governor, Tony Evers, he never called the National Guard when he should have. And I think that was all part of the ruse to try to swing an election one way or another. Look, people are so upset. Look at how the anger that the Orange Man created. And I don't know for sure, but it was part of the tactic, because they never allow a crisis to go to waste.
So I think that, bouncing back to the whole police accountability issue that you brought up, I think, the thing didn't really happen in a vacuum. And I'm not quite sure if the intention was to burn down the courthouse being centered in the park. Because, of course, we see, with multiple different protests, people tend to conglomerate or congregate rather in parks. It's just a massive, open area. So, maybe the fact that the park was near the courthouse could have just been a coincidence. I'm not sure. But, we have seen, multiple times where, police aggression on protesters tends to be the catalyst for kicking things off. And, like I said, this didn't really happen in a vacuum. And if the police in America were actually held accountable for committing the excessive abuses that they do, this wouldn't have happened. Going all the way back to Jacob Blake, if that officer was actually arrested immediately, because you don't shoot someone in the back 7 times, maybe they wouldn't have come out in force. But because, the blue privilege, they get away with it, that's the part of it. And it's not just the fact that issue, even in and of itself, this happened on the heels of the George Floyd thing, and George Floyd happened on the heels of Philando Castile. And, this is years and years and years of this, it builds up a powder keg. So I think if people were actually, if the government were actually serious about holding police accountable and, creating better ability for police to be trusted in their communities and rebuilding relationships where people feel comfortable, and to where the police aren't viewed as these oppressive agents of the state that just enforce the rules of tyrannical people in power, and actually are there to protect the community, then I think things would have been a lot different.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, Don. And Nate, our guest, we let's fast forward a little bit here to the next night. And today is the 2-year anniversary of the armed protesters facing off of BLM. There was the reports both in the courthouse, and I reported earlier amongst many of the local news that the law enforcement stopped and came out of their car and told these armed citizens, we're going to push them down your way so that you can take care of them. And I'm kind of concerned because, what kind of seed does that plant in, let's say, a young Kyle Rittenhouse mind? Because he definitely heard, because Balch is the one that said it, and he said it very loud. And they, at one point, I have a video of them saying, all right, take your positions. I'm like, positions? Like, what, are you guys going to war? Just stand in front of your freaking building. And that's, that's when we started things going, where the law enforcement was pushing them down the road towards 60th Street, and they're yo-yoing them back and forth. And it makes you go, I wonder why they kept yo-yoing them past these armed citizens, hoping to escalate things. Because like Don said, they had their hands tied. They couldn't shoot anyone anymore. They couldn't go after anyone anymore. It would just cause more chaos. So if Kyle Rittenhouse, this is a philosophical question, if Kyle Rittenhouse didn't open fire in self-defense that night, I wouldn't doubt that there would have been more tyranny that happened, more riots that happened in Kenosha throughout the weeks, because it did not seem to, it wasn't slowing down. It wasn't slowing down. So on that night, on the 25th, I was located in front of the courthouse where a BLM activist was holding a sign and getting tear gas, while other BLM activists were throwing water bottles at her, laughing at her while she was peacefully protesting. And I didn't understand that, showing you that there were people that were just adrenaline junkies there. But what we had is an Arkham Asylum situation where people were getting let out of the loony bins, and they were just all heading on down to the lunacy that was going on down in Kenosha. And that's where we get your important role, and that is in the court system. As we have about 10 minutes here left with you, Nate, I don't want to keep you too long, because you got that C-19, that coronavirus, the crown virus, and you're so sick that you can't do the show. So we know that you're barely surviving here on this live stream, because, and I don't mean to downplay it, because some people have been really hurt by the disease, but nonetheless, I just wanted to point out that, this is where we're at, the day after Kyle Rittenhouse, wildness is going on. So on the 25th, where were you that night? Because I saw a lot of your stuff in court, because I was there every day.
So I was all over. I was in the Civic Park area, and then I followed the huge protesting group all the way down Sheridan Road, and up Sheridan Road and back down Sheridan Road the entire night.
And what did you see? You ended up following some people, and you didn't, at that point, we didn't know that Rosenbaum and Zeminski was going to cause issues, right? But what were some of the things that you were seeing? Like people had weapons, bro. I thought it was like the Purge. People had broken broom handles. They got creative. They're like, all right, what can I use to hurt somebody with? They're like, well, we have this old table. Let's take the legs off of it.
Yeah, they had backpacks with baseball bats sticking out and lighter fluid in the water bottle holder of it, and it was bizarre.
It was like Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles, where he's got a cricket rack and a hockey stick, and it was literally people were out there and they're like, "Oh, just in case we needed a face," because people intended to use those things. You don't bring those things okay, they didn't intend to use them. They brought them for their like safety, I believe, in case something happened. But why are you bringing broom handles? That doesn't seem like that seems more like a riot, like an old school,
Right.
you know, we are about to be pillaged, King. The
Yeah.
rising up, they're bringing their rakes and their forks and they're attacking us. You know, that's what it seemed like, and it was wild that people were bringing this all up, and it was wild. You know, man, we gotta let you talk a little bit because I know we're limited on time. And if you want to hang out for a little bit after the break, we'd love to have you. But I know that you're a busy guy and there's some things we want to talk about. But so you ended up catching people that you didn't like. We didn't know Rosenbaum and Zeminski were going to be trouble that night. We just knew that they were chaotic.
Yes, absolutely. Just by the actions, Rosenbaum, just the way Rosenbaum acted, the way he grabbed a chain off of the trailer, how he armed himself with it. It's just, you could tell he was up to no good. And you could tell what people were the people that were egging others on.
Yeah, that is another thing that always came to mind is, you know, because of course we know Rosenbaum was released from the facility that he was in, and obviously, you know, looking at his conduct that night, he clearly should not have been. So clearly there was a failure of oversight whenever he was allowed to check himself out. And so that's another big thing that comes to my mind is that if he never left that facility, if someone somewhere looked at this guy's paperwork and his behavior and be like, hey, he's a little unhinged, we probably should keep him in here. If they kept his ass in there, things probably more than likely would not have popped off the way they did, because he was the one that initiated the violence against Kyle in the first place and caused that whole situation to spin out of control the way it did.
Absolutely.
And throughout the whole trial, they were not allowed to let the jurors know that he attempted suicide multiple times. And when you put somebody in that chaotic situation, they're saying they want to go back to jail. They're threatening Kyle Rittenhouse to gut him. I know that at the final statement by by the defense, they used my video saying, "See, there's Rosenbaum with the chain right in front of Car Source 2, where they claimed he never had it." And that's, essentially was starting the start of the downfall. And I didn't think I was gonna. I thought I was gonna be subpoenaed because everyone told me I was, but when I wasn't, I was like, "Whoo!" I'm like wiping sweat off the brow. And I decide to go to the courthouse every day to cover this. And then they talk about subpoenaing me while I'm in the courtroom. But when I saw you in there and your testimony, man, like I can't imagine what it was like for you to go through, Krauss and Thomas Binger and them talking to you and then wanting you to change your story. So let's dive into that real quick. So you sit down, you're getting interviewed by Binger and Krauss. What essentially happened there?
They Binger showed up a little late. But once everything got going, like I said on the stand, they showed me a photo, a video. Also played a video for me, but wanted me to identify who Zeminski was. And at the time, I had no clue who that was. And apparently, I had him in a photo without a mask on, and I felt like wanted me to put that in a statement somewhere where he could use that at another later time, I guess you could say, because Binger is the prosecutor that is going after Joshua Zeminski in the Zeminski trial. And when you ask me to change something the way in those words, I just felt very uncomfortable. I wasn't going to do it. And Krauss definitely tried to focus that section or that meeting on while I was on the stand. And I don't think it went well for him. The way he tried to bully me, the way he just approached me, I don't think that helped him in his case.
I couldn't help while sitting there on the witness stand think, is this Jonah Hill? Is Jonah Hill the lawyer? Like, is that like, because he has the same mannerisms? Like, that's definitely Jonah Hill. And then after you gave your testimony, like, you blew up. Like, I saw memes of you with glowing eyes. I used it, one of them in the background of your meme. Like, people had like laser eyes, and Nathan DeBruin became a living meme. I wouldn't be surprised that you become an NFT card deck in the future at the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Like people started to do things like that, and you actually held a very pivotal point in discrediting them, as well as my footage did at the end on the final arguments by the defense. And, you know, it was the same thing with me. Like, Thomas Binger asked me if I saw Rosenbaum in my video anytime, because I spent the most time around Rittenhouse and the armed citizens. I had the most conclusive, this is his words, most conclusive picture of what happened that night. And he asked me to watch it very carefully. And unfortunately, because of Facebook, I could only download it in 480p. I didn't have that ability to really get that high quality video that the law enforcement gets at 1080p. So I couldn't see it. And literally, you had to stop every frame in order to catch Rosenbaum, and they did it. And, you know, the defense said, well, you're telling me you had this video as long as we did. You didn't know this. And that's when I realized I've been conned. Like, he knew that Rosenbaum was in my video. He wanted me to go up there and say it wasn't. He wanted me to go up there and say that they were going to open fire because the redhead dude, the Irish dude, was like, F around and find out, you know. And he's like, oh, that means he's going to shoot everyone. I was like, no, that isn't what I heard. You know, I'm an independent journalist. And he's like, what is that? What is a citizen journalist? What is your website? I'm like, it's Citizen Journalist Run. That's like the most pure form of journalism out there. We get the news out faster than people can manipulate it. That's what we always do. And we're running a cross commercial break. Nate, can you stick around for like 5 or 6 minutes after the break?
Absolutely, I can.
Because you have a Green Bay Packer magnet on your fridge, and we got to keep the Packer fans around. If you don't know, the Green Bay Packers are the state ordained religion, and Todd Rugden's bang on the drum. That's our holy music. Whenever we hear that, that means Packers have scored. See, Nate isn't even denying it. We'll tell you, it's like a cult up here. We're proud of it. We go to our secret Green Bay Packers church on Sundays, and it's been Friday lately. Anyways, guys, don't go anywhere. Punch the like button. Drop some comments in the chat. We see people are blowing up the chat. Let us know what you think. Share the live link. Tag your friends. We'll be back. You're listening to The Rundown Live. You can send us emails, show tips at The Rundown Live, show tips at The Rundown Live, or you can just go to our website. We'll see you guys around this pen and this commercial break. Nate DeBruin, the man, the myth, the legend, is our guest. And boy, we want to tell you what he's been up to. His life has taken a turn like all of ours. We'll be back.
It lurks in the forest. A 45-foot-high stone owl ready to sacrifice an effigy. It's Moloch! 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 The great horned giant Babylonian pagan fire god mascot of the Bohemian Grove! Watch Moloch's annual ritualistic thrill show spectacular, The Creation of Care! Businessmen, bankers, politicians, and presidents side by side, ridding themselves of dull care. For 2 weeks in July, the elite are out to cross-dress, drink wine, and touch penises. That's right, it's Man-O-Rama! This hooded rogue satanic summer camp with skulls is men only. Get down and dirty in the woods. Plus gourmet food.
A barbecue. A baby barbecue. They want to barbecue the babies.
But remember, weeding spiders come not here.
Mr. Gergen, say hi to Moloch for me, Canaanite deity, and I'll see you at Eyes Wide Shut, baby.
Located at 20601 Bohemian Avenue, just off the 12 freeway in Monte Rio. Exactly 75.2 miles north of San Francisco. Turn right on Fulton, left on Occidental, right at Green Hill, another left at Brighton, right at Bohemian Highway, and one more right at Bohemian Avenue, and you're there. Brought to you by MK Ultra. Be Control. Be Ultra.
Weaving spiders come out here? Yeah.
It's no secret that the independent media is held to a much higher standard than the lamestream media. When's the last time that you've seen the New York Times get a 30-day ban for lying about weapons of mass destruction? Or how about the Independent getting a 7-day suspension on YouTube for claiming that everyone that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was African American? The truth is you don't, because they get away with it. We don't. We're independents. And what separates us from the lamestream media is that we are 100% funded by you. That's right. We're your radio program. We're your station, and we're open to everyone. We're interested in hearing all the topics, all the sides, because that's kind of like how science works, right? You take in all the data, you decide what is correct and what is not, but it doesn't censor information, because then you can't make great decisions to feed your brain. We need your help here on the rundownlive.com. Support us by heading over to our website and checking out our brand new swag. We have hot and sexy, all-seeing eye UFO pyramid boombox t-shirts. That's right, check them out. They're great, and there's no better way to support us than picking up some swag to spread the word about liberty and freedom and the ability to choose what is real and what is not for yourself, not some ministry of truth. Check us out, therundownlive.com. Pick up a t-shirt today. Again, that's therundownlive.com. Hit our store link and go shop, pick something up, support us.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a new world order, a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, when we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Until now, the world we've known has been a world divided, a world of barbed wire and concrete block, conflict, Cold War. Now we can see a new world coming into view, a world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. In the words of Winston Churchill, a world order in which the principles of justice and fair play protect the weak against the strong. A world where the United Nations, freed from Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic
time and time again about a new world order. And this is the best chance to begin to establish the new world order. And that's why the stakes are so high.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while a
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, live on KGRADB.com, the world's largest paranormal talk radio broadcasting syndication. And during the morning, they have the regular news, guys. That's us, Don Vi Jr. here. And we have a great guest joining us, Nathan DeBruin, witness in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, as it is Kenosha Week, as we've dubbed it. And today is the 2-year anniversary of 2 people being shot to death and one bicep being vaporized. That was his word. And I'm like, who says that in court? You're like, yeah, Mom, that's my bicep being vaporized. Like, God, like, you colorful. Give it to, if anything, give Gage that. Like, Grosskreutz is very colorful with his words. And obviously, he was out of a big lawsuit in a bicep after he admitted that when his bicep was vaporized is when he pointed the gun at Kyle Rittenhouse. And man, it looked like everyone was geez, it is what it is. Wild, and things have, things have proceeded. A lot of people went on to do activism. I know I consider it kind of re-jump started my career in talk radio. As news has been flowing out, I've been talking. We've been growing here. We're now on Band.video, many other great platforms. We're being censored everywhere. Just for being centrist. We're not far right. We're not far left. We're far center, and that's weird. That's weird to have centrist ideas, and you're the real extremist because you don't identify as a leftist or a far rightist. You're not a Proud Boy or Antifa. You're just somewhere in between, and that makes you extreme. And we've been talking about on the show the aftermath and the follow. And I remember, like I had like 130,000 tweets after I captured the video of Rittenhouse and the cops handing out water bottles amongst anything. And I'd have to say a good half of those were nothing but hate. They were angry, misplaced. Like, I had nothing to do. All I did is film, and I tried to prevent people from killing each other all night, and people hated me for it. And, Nate, what has your experience been since,
Definitely, after I took the stand, my life changed forever. I received a lot of hate at first, along with a lot of good positive vibes, but there was also a lot of hate mail. A lot of people emailed me. People broke my car windows and destroyed the inside of my vehicle. Matter of fact, I can still show you. It's through the first pane. I don't know if you can see it cracked. Someone threw a brick. Let me see if I can get close enough. See all the cracks?
Yeah.
Wow.
They threw a brick through my back window. So I did receive a lot of hate. I had to take a leave from work because people would be screaming, I support a murderer while I'm trying to do my job, which caused a lot of anxiety, PTSD. Then when I went back to work, I had to go back for 2 months with a bodyguard. And it definitely opened my eyes to a different way of thinking about life. But a lot of positive things have come out of this situation too. I met a lot of great people, such as both of you. I've now been all over the United States traveling, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. I'm currently planning a trip to the UK and Spain, hopefully within the next couple of months. So there's a lot of positive things that have come out of this. But I don't want anyone to ever forget, took a long way to get here. I went through a lot of battles. I still fight battles every single day.
Yeah, you go to the restaurant, man. You can't even go to the restaurant and sit down. You were telling me you had people like upset with you and in the middle of the restaurant yelling at you, and then somebody else that was there paid for your meal because they, obviously they knew who you were. And I tell you what, I've experienced a lot of, similarly, but not to the extreme you have. And, it's wild that people like, these are the people that say, don't judge me, that are judging you, and they don't know you. Like, what were you supposed to lie? Were you supposed to lie on the stand? Like, what? Oh, they're mad because
exactly.
You weren't evil.
The other common things, like people are like, well, why'd you go? It's like, I had to go.
Why didn't you plead the fifth? Like, why weren't you dishonest? Why didn't you put an innocent person behind bars? Even though he is a little dipshit, Kyle Rittenhouse, He's doing good things, though. He's suing the media, which is what he should do. I fully support him suing The View and Facebook, and I think he should. Like, I think he absolutely should. He should go get that money. But what we should talk about is, like, there's a lot of, like, kickback, and we have to deal with that every day. Like, there's people out there that, like, I read there's books where people have included me in their books, and they paint me as like a centrist extremist of some sort because I researched Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove, and that's anti-globalism. Never mind, it's 1,500 Caucasian white elitists that meet at Bohemian Grove. No, I'm crazy for asking questions, and yet it's the left that's protecting these globalist think tanks that are funding their agenda, when in reality it's not. They don't care about the agenda. What they care about is what they get out of it. And people don't understand every day there's ridicule, but then there's the good things, like you mentioned. Like I mentioned when I was working at for Samsung, and people will be like, "Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing talk radio?" Because nobody will put me on the radio because I'm not Republican or Democrat. Thank you, Alex Jones, for putting me on Band.video. Those guys over there, I mean, people want to hate on Jones, they can. I'm going to tell you, he is right most of the time, and people dislike him because they only know what the media tells you about him. And I'm not saying he's perfect, and I'm not saying I agree with everything that he says, but I can tell you, I feel more at home over at InfoWars than I have at just about anywhere else. They treat me good, you know? So that being said, that's the good that came out of it for me. But you, man, you hit the jackpot. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. How, I'll let you spill the beans. Tell our listeners what it is that you are traveling all over the place to do now.
So, I am now strictly doing photography, and I do go to Las Vegas for all the Tough Enough events and capture their fights. Their fights are on UFC Fight Pass. So if you are a member to UFC Fight Pass, you might see me on the side of the cage one time capturing the fights. So that's definitely pretty neat that came out of it. Also, I have had a lot of photography jobs, personal, like family reunion photos all over the country. And it's definitely neat to see the support because it hasn't always been easy. So I definitely appreciate the support from everyone that has offered me support from here to all the way around the entire world. I felt the support. So I definitely appreciate it. And I do have big things coming. I am working on strictly a photo book of all the photos that I took of the nights from the start of the Jacob Blake shooting to the night the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting happened. That hopefully should be coming out within the next couple of months. So I will be posting details about that very shortly. And just look forward to more photos coming out from me from all the different places that I travel.
Dude, look at these MMA fighters, bro. Look, I can get in a ring if that's what they look like. Like, I got that beer belly going on. Put me in the ring. Yeah. You know, we got the Wisconsin. Look at this. This guy's totally Wisconsin. Like, he's got the cheese, the brats, the beers, and he's in the ring. I wonder who won that fight. Did the brat and cheese dude win, or did this Rip guy win?
I don't remember. There's been so many fights.
Well, that's awesome, Nate. Like, you are literally pursuing your passion, taking photographs. You're working, subpar MMA, UFC fights. You're taking photographs. And it's amazing that came out of this. Somebody saw your talent and they said, well, I tell you what, we can help you out. We can make things happen. And I could tell you this, not all of us, we know how to tread water, right, Nate? We can get in a pool, tread water, but somebody's got to throw you the life raft every once in a while. Somebody's got to help pull you out of the water. Otherwise, you're just treading water the whole time. And that's the way the Rundown Live has been for 12 years. And whenever we've been growing, they've literally added more water to the pool to prevent us from getting out. And that's essentially what it is, man. We were literally having millions of views. We multiple different platforms. Our articles were getting tens of millions of reads, and they basically snuffed it all out under the fake guise of Russian collusion, which I didn't receive any Ruski money. I wish I would have been here now. I'd be sitting down eating like hors d'oeuvres with Vladimir Putin and whoever else they want to make up. With that, like Trump and like Jones would be there and Stone like holding to the left. Right. Or you could be like, hanging out with what's the other guy's name? Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, who I guess really knows how to party, and he makes videos his dad watches. Did you hear that? Like the porn that Hunter Biden filmed, he texted his dad. That came out in the UK Daily Mail, allegedly. That there was a text. He forwarded his Pornhub videos to a contact in his phone named Dad. And I would assume that's Joe Biden. So you think Joe Biden's like, yeah, new video. All right, son. Woo! Go get him. Smoke that crack. That's how messed up. And he was the one colluding with Ukraine and Russia. And it's all messed up. Like, this whole world is like, it's all upside down world, Nate. and you've been able to make something of it. So I want to give our listeners an opportunity to know where they can support you, where they can donate, where they can see your stuff, where they can follow you, all that and a whole bunch more. Because I know you got that COVID and you're barely surviving this broadcast. And by the time you're done, you're going to be crawling out of that chair because according to leftists, 8 out of 10 people die from COVID. That's what they believe. Did you know that there was a survey that they believe that 80% of people die from COVID that get it, and that wasn't true at all. It's like 0.0001. There was actually surveys done, and literally that's because people believe the news. They believe the news, and if it wasn't for people like you, Nathan, if it wasn't for people out there, Kyle Rittenhouse would be in jail right now eating, spoiled egg sandwiches and, watching his cornhole, because that's what he'd be doing. I'm telling you right now. And because of you, because of your hard work, because of, like the videos that people like Richie McGinnis and Elijah Schaefer and I took and other people took that were there, like, that's like what citizen journalism is about. And they don't want to give us credit, but they want to use all our stuff, don't they, Nathan? They want to use all our photographs and all our videos free of charge too, right? They'll pay everyone out.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened. And then the people, they use them and they got to go after them. And we got some comments in the chat I want to get you. People are saying positive things that basically in support of you and of this broadcast. Sherry says, good afternoon. Drib says, good afternoon. The trial is how I discovered this. Outsiders are usually the troublemakers. Can't disagree with you guys and a whole bunch more. So, Nate, tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
You can check me out on Twitter at Photos by Nate D. That's my handler name. You can also go to photosbynated.com. That's where a lot of my photos are posted for purchase. Or you can cash at me at PhotoChad. That will be my name for my cash app. And I just want to say, no matter what I've gone through, all the battles that I fight on a daily basis, all the harassment, all the hate, will never stop me from doing the right thing. And it never crossed my mind to ever not do the right thing. And I will always continue to do the right thing. So I just want everyone to know that.
See, that's what separates people like me and you and Alex Jones from the rest of the world and other individuals. Even though we might make mistakes, we believe in what we're doing. We try to do the right thing and do the proper thing and do everything. So everyone go out there, support Nathan DeBruin, follow him on Twitter. He's got more followers than the Rundown Live does, 10.1K, man. He's an influencer, guys. They wouldn't give him the blue check mark though. That's just like me. I'm like, I got 20 million views just in one day of a cop handing out water bottles, and they don't think I'm a legit person still. But Nate DeBruin, a true patriot, photographer, photojournalist, and now MMA photograph star. Dude, those photos were lit, bro. Those are some great like we knew got to hit a Packer game, and then you got to take some photos. Just like that's really why I want to hang out. That's really why I want to hang out with you, Nate. It's because I want to steal your Packers photos that you're going to take and post them all over. Like, those photos are great, man. They're great. And if you're not in Wisconsin, you don't understand Packer culture here. It's wild. So go Pack. I think they played Friday. They've been playing Fridays. I don't know why. I guess that's a new thing. NFL trying to make revenue. But all that and a whole bunch more, Nate. Thanks for joining us. It's been a blessing to get to know you in person. To get to know you in person, to be able to talk about these things intimately with you, because we went and shared a moment, as well as a lot of other protesters, that will impact us the rest of our lives. We don't know, like the PTSD is a real thing. Like your mind starts racing as soon as you watch those videos, and it's becoming less and less. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's good to be able to get together and talk to people who shared the same experience and going through things and covered. I reached out to Richie McGinnis. He thought about joining us on this broadcast. We'll see if we can get him on. I know he's a busy guy. I didn't hear back from Drew Hernandez, which doesn't surprise me. But Elijah Schaefer is another one I thought we'd definitely get a hold of. But he's been difficult to get a hold of as well. Because we're not that mainstream. We're not the lame stream. We're not big time Alex Jones, and they don't got time to be on all our podcasts. They got a whole bunch of stuff to do. So when we get somebody as huge as Nate DeBruin, we are thankful, guy. I appreciate you, and we'll talk soon. Somebody text. And by the way, I got to send you your shirts. I know you bought the awesome Rundown Live All Seeing UFO t-shirts, and I didn't mail them because I talked myself into that we're gonna hang out, and I know I won't hang out unless I deliver the shirts. Because if I mailed them to you, bro, I would be no incentive for me to why I gotta force myself to hang out with people because that's who I am. I'm old. I never leave my house, and I'm like, well, this gives me a reason to leave my house. I can go hang out with Nate. So let's get
Yes,
together
we
soon.
can go catch lunch again.
Let's do that, man. We'll get some of that with Milwaukee barbecue. That's pretty good. We'll find something. Maybe I'll come on down by you. We'll get some Frank's. I love Frank's Diner down there. That's great.
Oh yeah, I love that too.
All right, Nate. We'll talk soon. Thanks for joining us on the Rundown Live. We'll see you back. Anytime you have breaking news, hit me up. And if you want to go cover events, I'll keep you in the loop when I start covering stuff again.
Absolutely. Let me know. I can always hit the road with you. Thank you, guys. Take care. Great work.
All right. Have a good one, Nate. Blessed to have you on. Nate DeBruin was our guest, witness in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. And I feel good, man. I feel happy that Nate's doing well.
Yeah.
He literally went through some crazy persecution. I didn't even get into everything that we talked about. And it's very therapeutic for us to all sit down and have a conversation of what's going on with the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing and the aftermath and where we are in our lives. But that being said, we have a lot of news to cover in a matter of 30 minutes.
We do.
But before we do, want to give a moment of silence. And, it's sad that people had to die August 25th. People made bad decisions. I did my best and others did their best to try to prevent it. And, it's sad. It's sad. And you know what they're going to have, though, Don, for the next protest like that? I'm going to tell you right now. They're going to have a human eating robot. It's going to eat humans and it's going to take the dead carcass and it's going to gobble it up.
Oh no!
I'm not kidding. They got this robot that they developed. It's called the EATR robot. We're not.
Oh, I am aware. I know exactly what it is, and it's
exactly where I'm going with it.
Crazy sci-fi stuff, man. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, the military created an EATR robot. That's right, a robot that eats humans, and so it cleans up the battlefield. Because it survives on here. It is Gizmodo. Remember EATR, the military robot that was supposed to eat humans? There, we're talking a little bit about it. There's a flesh-eating robot is coming out, and here's a picture. I gotta show you what this looks like, bro. You think I'm making this up? But no, the military made a robot that can eat organisms for fuel. And look at what do they show here? What is the robot eating?
That's crazy,
like a
man. Yeah.
It's like, what is it? Okay, the best way I can explain this for the listeners, you're thinking about a humanoid robot that's going to eat people, right? No, this is more like a, what are those things that grind wood? Like you cut down the branches.
Like a wood chipper.
A wood chipper. This is a human chipper, basically, is what it looks like. And it grabs the human and it pulls it in and then it chips up the human. It's like, and that's how it stays alive. It's a human eating robot. And you can't make this thing up. I know I heard Joe Rogan talking about, I'm like, how did I miss this? Out of all the things, maybe I did talk about it, but it says, we completely understand the public's concern about futuristic robots feeding on the human population, but that is not our mission. No, but when does it become your mission?
Right. And now not only does it become their mission, but also just mishaps, we know how, things are going with AI, so you start incorporating AI with these machines. What if they just become self-aware, start running amok? Oh, we're going to go down to the park. It's like a human buffet. What the hell's even going on?
Well, it needs humans to survive. That's just it. It's like, okay, we're going to just go down. It's like, some little kid runs into a, don't laugh, bro. That's somebody's kid. Seriously. And you can't make this up here. I'll Google it. I bet Wikipedia probably is. It's an EATR, EATR robot. See, it came right up. EATR robot. It stands for Energetically Autonomous Tactical Robot. It's tactical because it's going to eat your ass. It's going to be like, yum, 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 yum. Look at this. And they're like, oh, this is a human eating, robot eating the human. And here's the design. This one, wood chipper for humans. That's all it is. Isn't there a movie like that? Dale and Tucker, a zombie apocalypse or something, and somebody
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, that's it. Where they're sitting there and the zombie runs at them. They don't realize there's a zombie apocalypse, and the zombie ends up diving into the wood chipper trying to eat them.
What goes on in that movie is actually not a zombie apocalypse thing. Basically, what happens is there are these college students that go out into the middle of the woods to this cabin, basically to like get away for a while, just a little vacation in the cabin in the woods. And it's a horror comedy basically, where they think Tucker and Dale, who are basically they're like hillbillies who live out in the woods, but they wouldn't hurt a fly. They're like goofy, funny dudes, but they just look so menacing that these college kids, they think they're probably like mass murderers. And then all these crazy circumstances that just happen to make them like out of context situations where if you come in at the wrong time, it looks like something it's not. And so they just keep thinking that, oh, you know, these people are mass murderers when really it's not the case at all. So then they develop these plans like, okay, we got to run at them. We got to take out the mass murderer because they're going to kill us. And so they run at him with like a spear or something. And Dale just like moves out of the way, not knowing there's a wood chipper running behind him. The person dives headfirst to the wood chipper. So then Tucker and Dale are trying to save them.
They're like, oh, crazy. People are suicidal around here. I remember.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, check it out. It's hilarious. I love that movie.
So we should dub this eater robot the Ben Zion burger machine. You're just gonna take a person, chop them up, grind them up, and it's gonna make Ben Zion burgers on there. If you don't know who Ben Zion is, he was a left-leaning libertarian. Allegedly, he's a commie. He's an Antifa guy. He just posted as a left-leaning libertarian, but he's in with all the transhumanists, and he actually took his skin cells and made burgers and was eating them, and he got kicked out of the transhumanist party because that's cannibalism, right? And they're trying to push that right now, and you want to know because Ben Zion, he was doing it first, and now we're going to have eater robots that are going to eat people and make burgers out of you and brats. You'll be able to get that Rogers brat, or whatever you want, military-made robot that can eat organisms for funeral. It's going to go out in the battlefield, just eat people. It's going to make the burgers for the soldiers, and we're going to be set. All that and more that you learn on the Rundown Live. Punch that like button, share the live feed. I see you guys on Rockfin and Rumble. Share the live links. We'll be back after these messages with our sponsors. We have a bunch of news to cover in this last half hour. Don't go anywhere.
This is Banned Questions, take one. Who?
What?
When?
Where?
Why? How?
Question.
Questions.
When I was growing up, I had so many questions.
I think that questions lead to more questions.
Ignorance is bliss.
By middle school,
a child's curiosity is at an all-time high.
And that's because kids like to ask questions.
We need to help them tune out.
Truth doesn't matter.
Let's just ban questions altogether.
And encourage kids to do what they're told.
To be dull and uninformed. Listen to the voice of authority.
There are limits.
Dare to be boring.
You can't change the world.
Let's ban questions.
Be dumb. Be you.
Ban questions.
Encourage kids to obey today. Take the pledge at thejoycamp.com.
We're not asking, we're telling.
It's no secret that the independent media is held to a much higher standard than the lamestream media. When's the last time that you've seen the New York Times get a 30-day ban for lying about weapons of mass destruction? Or how about the Independent getting a 7-day suspension on YouTube for claiming that everyone that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was African American? The truth is you don't, because they get away with it. We don't. We're independents. And what separates us from the lamestream media is that we are 100% funded by you. That's right. We're your radio program. We're your station. And we're open to everyone. We're interested in hearing all the topics, all the sides, because that's kind of like how science works, right? You take in all the data, you decide what is correct and what is not, but it doesn't censor information because then you can't make great decisions to feed your brain. We need your help here on therundownlive.com. Support us by heading over to our website and checking out our brand new swag. We have hot and sexy, all-seeing eye UFO pyramid boombox t-shirts. That's right, check them out. They're great, and there's no better way to support us than picking up some swag to spread the word about liberty and freedom and the ability to choose what is real and what is not for yourself, not some ministry of truth. Check us out, therundownlive.com. Pick up a t-shirt today. Again, that's therundownlive.com. Hit our store link and go shop, pick something up, support us.
Hey guys, I'm back with a
Is that The Bachelor? Oh, great show.
Oh, what's up, dude?
Hey,
you were just in time.
What's up, buddy?
I've got something that'll make our favorite show even better.
Oh, I bet I know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah! That's what I'm talking about. That was what I was talking about.
Is it sativa?
It's just called Truth Bomb.
Truth Bomb Hybrid. You finna get woke.
Oh.
I don't really know what that means, but we're woke, so it sounds like
let's
it's
get even
just
more
fine.
woke.
Hey, you guys, there's a warning on here.
Charlie?
You shall. How is it?
Taxation is theft.
What did you say? You have to pay taxes. Otherwise, who would build the roads?
You're right.
Besides, Big Pharma is keeping us sick.
Wait. What?
It's true.
Try this. Public schools are indoctrination camps.
Oh!
Whoa! This packs a mighty powerful punch.
Wow, that's the strongest little joint I've ever seen.
Let me put this tiny
And
thing
they are
down.
indoctrination camps.
They are.
Take another hit. Take another hit. I gotta see where this goes.
Okay, tiny joint. Do what you do. The fluoride in our water is calcifying our pineal gland.
Oh my god! That makes so much sense! That makes so much sense! That's our third eye! That's our third eye! Hold on. Wow. The Super Bowl halftime show is a mega occult ritual.
Oh shit, it is!
It's in plain sight. It's in plain sight.
Give me. It's my turn. Circumcision is genital mutilation!
It is.
Oh, they just cut your dick tip right off.
Just cut right off.
And I'm Latino, I should still have mine.
Guys, I have an idea.
Oh, what's your idea?
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, and I'm wearing this sexy vaccinated shirt. It's a trans vax because I identified as being fully vaccinated, but I haven't really, gotten a jab, so I'm sitting in solidarity with all the people there that are vaxxed, and I deserve all the same rights as those individuals. It's got a little rainbow, you see that, with the little needle on the end. And speaking of the good old vaccine, I guess, I can't disagree with this argument because Trump kind of put himself in his position, but it's in the news that in political that they're blaming Donald Trump for the side effects of the vaccine. The Trump administration has been pressured allegedly the FDA to authorize unproven treatments for COVID-19. Does that sound legitimate? Does it sound not? Maybe it was Big Pharma that was whispering in Trump's ear saying, we got to get this passed. This will help you get elected, amongst other things. But now that they're finding out that there's all these bizarre side effects and they're becoming more and more known, like the person from the One American News Network that published an article that over hundreds of athletes are dying on the field after vaccination. And then when Reuters and somebody else went to go fact check it, they gave them all the links to everything and they decided not to write the article. I wonder why. Probably because it's really happening. Wild stuff. And so here it is. The Trump administration pressured the FDA to authorize unproven treatments for COVID-19 and the first COVID-19 vaccines on an accelerated timeline, according to the House report released Wednesday. So it's all Donald Trump's fault.
Right. See, this is the typical media tactic of trying to get in front of the chaos before it really kicks off. Because, folks like you and me and the Free Thought Project and so many others, we were warning about this from the very beginning. You cannot fast track a vaccine through production. The fastest vaccine that was ever actually effective that went through production was 4 years. Typically, it takes between 6 to 6.5 to 7 years to make an effective vaccine. The quickest one was ever put through was 4 years. Thankfully, that was still effective. You can't push through the way they did a vaccine in 9 damn months, especially when considering that all of the corporations involved with it have some of the track records for the worst malfeasance and corruption in history. Pfizer, for example, is known for paying, and this is documented, you can look it up on the Department of Justice, for paying the largest healthcare fraud settlement in history. Johnson & Johnson, same thing, multiple institutes of malfeasance. I actually have an article documenting all of this, or you can go to corpresearch.org, I believe, and they have all of the, you can type in Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, wherever, and you can find all the records, mainstream articles, Department of Justice documents of all the corruption of all these corporations and whatnot. And this is absolute fact, and I posted about this on Facebook, and I got banned for 100% facts. They said it was misinformation. They banned me for, I think it was
we lost the
3
channel
days
because of saying that the Wuhan, like the virus came from Wuhan. That's how crazy it was at one point.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Just like in my recent article for the Free Thought Project, I pointed out, they used to say that the lab leak theory is just a conspiracy theory. It's absolutely insane. But now we have the head of the World Health Organization and editors for the Lancet, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, saying that the lab leak hypothesis is actually quite plausible. So, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact? About 9 months.
Right. So now we got the big news yesterday, as you guys saw if you were here at the beginning of the program, is Biden's new student loan forgiveness plan. And it says it helps mostly people who don't need it. Don Vayu, do you want to do a deep dive in this article? What's going on? Everyone's excited and thinks that Biden's giving you student forgiveness, but it's not like exactly what you think.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and pull it up on the screen here from this is from Reason Magazine. And basically, the long and short of it is, because I know we got a lot of news to cover, but basically it's pointing out that, as anybody with any sort of sense and an understanding of how the government does business would already be aware, this new student loan forgiveness plan is going to disproportionately only help affluent, wealthy Americans. So again, this is the federal government, cucking for the wealthy and the rich, and still continuing to leave the poor and the working class out to dry, while pretending that they're doing it for the poor and the working class. It's disgusting and ridiculous, but at the same time, it's so commonplace at this point, we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it says today, Joe Biden announced a plan to forgive nearly $300 billion in student loan debt. The benefit will be available to individuals earning up to $125,000 per year and couples earning $250,000, and will forgive up to $10,000 per borrower, rising to $20,000 per Pell Grant recipients. In addition to direct loan forgiveness, Biden announced a suite of additional loan forgiveness measures, including allowing participants in income-driven repayment plans to spend no more than 5% of their adjusted income on monthly payments, and forgiving student loan balances of $12,000 or less after 10 years of payment. The estimated cost of these programs has not been announced, but here's what my administration is going to do, he said. Provide more breathing room for people so they have less burden by student debt, and quite frankly, to fix the system itself, which when Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona and I came in, we both acknowledged is broken. Oh, by the way, who was the one that said that everyone should go to college and that we're going to give everyone admittance to college, and therefore the banks have a college bubble and they jack the interest rates and everything up? Who was in office when that happened? I'm just throwing the thinking out loud. Was it Joe Biden? Was that Joe Biden that was in office when that happened and caused the college bubble, and why everyone has because it used to take me, it used to be $1,200 a semester for me when I went to college, and I went to a university, local one, but it was still UW Wisconsin University. It was $1,200 a semester. That's for $300 roughly. $100 a credit is what it came to. And now that same school is probably going to be like somewhere about $5,000 or $6,000 because of the college bubble. And what Ron Paul warned about and everything we talked about on the show is basically you give everyone acceptance to college and they accept everyone. Well, they're going to raise in tuition because they're going to get the money if the college, and if they know that the lawyers are going to give them the loans, everyone's going to be in major debt. And of course, the bankers can't help their greedy hands, because when they look at money, they're like, my precious. They're like Lord of the Rings all of a sudden. And Golem comes out, and they just all that glitters is gold to them. Anyways, so the long story short is, how does this not help people who need it? Like, what's the example of that?
Well, I mean, the article goes on to sort of explain that, but essentially it's the fact that because it's more so forgiving the the people who don't necessarily need it. We're talking about doctors, we're talking about lawyers, talking about people who are making over $125,000 a year, the people who are already well off and affluent and doing well in life. Whereas the whole point of student loan forgiveness is the fact that so much of a generation, and this is where I kind of have mixed feelings about the whole situation, because of course, whenever the government steps in to offer a forgiveness or do anything with money, but really anything in general, but especially anything with money, of course they're going to screw something up. So they shouldn't be involved in anything. But at the same time, being a part of this generation that, thankfully I never went to college, because even in high school, I was like, this shit's a scam, bro. Like, I can learn the same thing. I don't need some sort of piece of paper to tell me that I know what I know. You can literally get college textbooks at the library and learn things, right? So the whole damn thing is a scam, and thankfully I recognized it for what it was when I was in high school and I didn't go. But, you have a whole generation of people who grew up in my era that we were constantly told, it was pounded in our heads over and over again. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. Your life is going to be worthless, and you're not going to be able to contribute to society, and you're not going to be worth anything as a human being if you don't go to college. They sort of forced it on a generation, and now we're in the situation where everyone's they've accrued this massive amount of crippling debt that they're going to be stuck in almost for the rest of their lives, depending on their personal financial situations. And their degrees are worthless. They can't do anything with the education or so-called education that they got when they went to where they were told they had to go. So it's a difficult situation for me to be in, because I know people who are in lifelong crippling debt because of this. And, we were told, if you go to college and you do what we tell you and all this sort of shit, and you put yourself in debt for the rest of your life, you'll be able to do great things. And, all that glitters is not gold, apparently, because they're still stuck, in this, crappy situations, and their degrees are worthless and they can't do anything. And, if somebody would have told them, hey, you can go to trade school and you can get these awesome skills. I also have friends, because I grew up in a very rural area. I know a lot of construction workers and people that work with their hands. I know guys that are welders. Friends. Yeah, welders. I know guys that are welders and construction workers and like electrical line technicians, and they're making bank. And now I know these people that also have like degrees in like science and whatnot, and they're baristas at Starbucks because they can't get jobs in their field.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's very common with psychology too. People have an 8-year degree, $150,000 in debt, and they're working at Best Buy for $10 an hour or 12 or whatever it is, and they can't get by. But we got a lot in foreign policy going on, including disturbing information coming out of Tel Aviv. And I know that this is something that we wanted to dive into. And for those that are out there, you need to understand, we're just bringing information. We don't have a horse and race one way or another. We just want you guys to have all the facts. And so what we have going on here, Don, with Tel Aviv.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a piece out of the Cradle. It's a pretty good Middle Eastern foreign policy website that I just recently discovered. But they're actually reporting on a investigation by Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper, and that's the interesting thing about this particular report, because you'd see a report like this, and if it came out of like Press TV or Sasa or something like that, then you would say, oh, it's just biased. But this is actually a report that came out of Israeli newspaper. Talking about the fact that Tel Aviv, the government of Israel, the investigation that Haaretz conducted found that the Israeli government is working with the defense ministry to cover up documented proof of the atrocities that went on during the Nakba. And for those that haven't studied the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict and the illegal occupation of Palestinian lands by Israeli colonizers, the Nakba was essentially when the colonizers went into that area and they began their ethnic cleansing and kicking Palestinians out of their homes and destroying villages and whatnot, and just, massacring civilians And that's a lot of the documents that are being covered up here by the Israeli government, that their own newspaper has essentially blown the whistle on with this latest expose. And it's shocking the lengths to which they're going to really try to hush things up and cover up these documents and really try to present the image that they've attempted to put Israel as on that pedestal in the international community, when, again, for those that have actually studied the conflict and understand what's going on in context in that area of the world, the nation state of Israel it's an apartheid state. They've been committing vicious acts of ethnic cleansing against the indigenous people of that land for decades now, and they're now going about attempting to cover up the evidence of when and why it all started.
So it says, according to the report by Hebrew newspaper Hertz, released on 22nd of August, Tel Aviv has been working through its defense ministry to hide historical documents related to the founding of the state of Israel from the Israeli public. But the founding of Israel in 1948, known throughout the Arab world as the Nakba, a catastrophe, involved the ethnic cleansing and mass expulsion of Palestinians from their land by ultra-nationalist Jewish gangs. But I thought the Zionists, they want world, like everyone to get together in the world and be friends. I thought that's what this is about. These big Zionist bankers. But I guess when it comes to forming your own country, they don't believe in borders either, but they wanted their own borders and walls. And these gangs were later integrated into Israeli military. The documents contain details on Israelis' killing of citizens, as well as erasure, not the band. Erasure is a great band, of entire Palestinian villages. Israel is undergoing a systematic process to conceal evidence of the Nakba, Hertz reveals. The report states that efforts to hide these documents have been carried out by the Directorate of Security of the Defense Establishment, a secret department of Israeli Defense Ministry known as the Melmob, whose work and budget are secret. That must be much like our Pentagon and Black Ops. Members of the Melmob reportedly worked without any legal authority, even in some cases hiding documents that the military censor had previously allowed to be published, Hertz revealed. The report also details that government officials, including members of the Israeli Knesset, who by law are allowed access to such archives, were banned from viewing the documents in question. A settlement was reached in which Israeli Treasury would send requests in order for archived documents to be examined for disclosure. The Melmob apparatus would then search through them thoroughly to determine if they can be published alongside Israel's accessible archives, despite already being accessible by Israeli law.
That's really one of the it's kind of
Freedom
like
of Information Act. Sorry, it's not available.
That really is one of the more interesting things about this expose out of Hertz that they revealed, is that it's not just that they're covering this up from the public, that these documents are legally and should be available to the members of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. And the defense ministry is blocking the lawmakers who are legally able to access these documents because of the damning information contained within them.
Yeah, here it says on July 8th, Hebrew media revealed the existence of a mass grave under the parking lot of a tourist attraction in Israel, where the bodies of dozens of Egyptian soldiers burned alive by Israeli forces were buried during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, also known as Six-Day War. I wonder if that's when we had the USS Liberty, where Israel shot her ship full of bullets because they claimed it was Egyptian, but they knew it was American. Not quite sure if that's the same timeline, but Israel was doing a lot of shady stuff.
Yeah, I think it was around that time, but I'm not sure if it was connected to the 6-Day War or not. But I know we only have a few minutes left, but I did want to hit on this Ukraine news very quickly, if you didn't have anything else to pull up.
Hold on. It was, check this out. It was June 8th, 1967.
Okay, yeah. So I think it was right around
that. Yeah, it was during the 6-Day War.
Okay, yeah.
So what do we have going on in Ukraine here? People haven't heard much. It seems they have dissipated in the news. We sent a bunch of our tax money over there, and the IRS coming after people here who are paying taxes, not the missing money over in, that we are sending over to Ukraine. What's going on in the world in Ukraine?
So there's actually a couple pieces I wanted to hit on, but one of them, great report of the Gray Zone, we can save for tomorrow because it's a little more lengthy than this one. But this is a report by Eva Bartlett, who's, if you don't know her, Eva K. Bartlett, Reality Theories. She's a great journalist. She's currently living over in the Donbass region in the Donetsk People's Republic, basically on the ground, actually doing the work of a real journalist and trying to figure out what the hell's actually going on. This is a report published in Covert Action magazine, also great publication. In just under 3 weeks, Ukrainian has fired prohibited pedal mines, maim at least 44 civilians and kill 2 in the Donetsk region. And essentially, what this report goes into detail is that the Ukrainian military, for those who've either followed my work on it or have just kept up with the conflict, you would know that they've been committing crimes against humanity and war crimes against the people of the Donbass region. Ukrainians that they claim are Ukrainians because they don't want them to secede. You know, we don't want you to become your own country, so you're Ukrainians. We're going to keep you nationalized as Ukrainians, but we're still going to bomb the hell out of you. Tell me how that makes sense, bombing your own people.
Well,
you know,
that's
sort of
not
like,
xenophobic. That's offering UN aid. I mean, that's what
right,
the UN
yeah.
is, peacekeeping. We know that's
But
a
anyway,
peacekeeping
so
operation. Come on.
yeah, so they've been committing these war crimes, you know, for the past 8 years, ever since the Donbass region, the Donetsk People's Republic, and the Lugansk People's Republic attempted to declare their independence because they didn't want to be ruled by the fascist regime that got installed after the U.S. NATO-backed coup in 2014. And so the conflict has been going on for about 8 years. So now they're using these. I believe they are called PFM1 pedal mines or butterfly mines, which are anti-personnel ordnance. They're fired from rockets, and it spreads like hundreds of them all over a place, and they're very small. You can see it, this picture up here, these little brown things. You know, that's essentially what they look like. And what they do is they maim people. They're not mines that are intended to kill. They maim. They're known for blowing off hands. They're known for blowing off feet, taking limbs off, permanently injuring people in horrific ways. And because of that, they're actually banned under international law. They're banned under the Geneva Convention. It is a war crime to use them in a theater of battle. So not only is Ukraine using these in a theater of battle, they're using them against civilian targets. And that is the main point of this article that Eva points out, is that they are firing these banned mines, banned under international law, war crime to use them under the Geneva Convention, on civilian targets in the Donetsk region, up to and even including targeting an orphanage, which thankfully all the children had already been evacuated back in February because of its close proximity to the front lines. But, you know, it just continues on that they're continuing to commit these war crimes, continuing to commit these atrocities against the civilian population of the Donbass region. Our media is not covering it. They're refusing to cover it. And anyone like Eva Bartlett or Patrick Lancaster or anyone on the ground who dares to tell the truth and interview the people on the ground that these things are happening to, you know, we get labeled Russian propagandists. So you're pushing propaganda for the Kremlin. No, they're just interviewing people who friggin' live there. And you can identify where the rounds are being fired from, because that's one of the things that they've attempted to push out. The Western media say, oh, well, it's the Russians that are bombing the Donbass region.
False flag. There are no false flags. This is a false flag.
Right. You know, that's the narrative that the Western media has tried to push out, is that you know, these attacks are actually being launched by the Russians against the people of the Donbass. And, you know, like I said, reporters like Eva and Patrick Lancaster have interviewed these people, and they said, no, we know the Russians, and we also know how to identify these ordnance. And you can look at the casings, and you can tell which nation they've come from. These are Ukrainian weapons. They've been firing for 8 years, essentially. And so, yeah, you know, you try to tell the truth about what's happening over there. And the fact that I just find it interesting, and I make these comparisons to Ukraine and Syria all the time in my reporting, and I have for years at this point, because I actually called out what was going to happen in Ukraine a year and 9 days before the Russian invasion occurred. I actually made a post about it on Facebook, and I said they're going to turn Ukraine into Syria 2.0. They're going to launch a dirty war, a proxy war there, and use it in many of the similar ways that they've used the Syrian war as a proxy against Russian interests in the Middle East. And that's exactly what happened. I called it a year ahead of time. And I continue making these comparisons to Syria because we continue to see so many of these similar narratives take place. And, one of the interesting things to contrast is that one of the big lies to validate or rather justify the America's incursion and the illegal occupation of Syria was the lie that Bashar al-Assad had gassed his own people with that sarin gas attack in Douma back in 2017. And then whistleblowers for the OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, came out and said, no, we found no evidence of that, but our higher ups got pressured by the American government to falsify the report, and we have the evidence. Aaron Mate of the Gray Zone has actually been doing a fantastic job covering that whole OPCW scandal. But the point is, I just find it interesting that they pushed that narrative that Assad gassed his own people and attacked Syrians to justify the incursion in Syria. But now that the Ukrainian government, the puppet regime that was put in place by our CIA and guys like John McCain and Joe Biden and John Kerry, are actually attacking their own citizens, not a word. It's insane.
Yeah, it says Ukrainian regime led by media darling Vladimir Zelensky kidnaps student dissidents, bans opposition parties, shuts down independent media, commits egregious war crimes, and imposes regressive labor laws. Sounds like the New World Order because, that's what they say. We fight for the New World Order. That's what they said, the Ukrainians. And that's where your tax money is going. You sent tax money to destroy our world and their world. And you think you're funding good people, but it's really a bunch of neo-Nazis and extremists. And now they're just blaming. Here it says, as most of its war crimes against civilians in the Donbass, Ukraine, NATO media invert reality and claim Russia is the guilty party. They cry crocodile tears for Donetsk and children Ukraine has targeted. Also, disingenuously claiming the now famous video of a DPR soldier detonating a mine by throwing a tire at it was a Ukrainian soldier demining Russian-fired mines, all of which ended up not being true. That's wild, Don. Tomorrow's going to be another great day. Stay tuned. We'll have a great guest, I'm sure, tomorrow. Is tomorrow Friday? No, tomorrow's not Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yes. No,
tomorrow's
Friday.
Tomorrow is Friday. Boy, this week's going fast. Freaky Friday. Well, maybe we'll see. We get something freaky and fun on Friday. We don't know, but hang in there, guys. Tune into the Rundown Live. Listen, we're 100% listener funded. We can't survive without your donations. Tip us, drop some cash our way, pick up a shirt on the rundownlive.com. We have those sexy shirts we were talking to you about that Nate DeBruin also picked up. Support our guest today. Check out his Twitter. Follow him. You can donate to Nate amongst the many other places, but go to the Rundown Live, pick up, you go to our store and pick up one of these shirts. They're free delivery right now. They're only $25 and we got them up to 4XL available for you. We'll be back tomorrow. You guys stay blessed. You're listening to the Rundown Live on KGRADB.com band.video while we're still on air.